fact.
Now, before I bring my co-host in, Rashid, his name is Rashid also. I want to go to something as we talk about the Ukraine crisis and we talk about the seriousness of this. And most people point back to 2014 when Victoria Nuland um, and her proteges helped to overthrow the democratically elected government of Victor. What is his name? I forget his name. Yanukovych, I
Yeah,
believe that's his name.
yeah, yeah.
Yanukovych, and and America made no bones about democracy then. But I take it further. It didn't start in 2014. It started way before that because remember, Barack Obama's protege and mentor, Zbigniew Brzezinski, has said that if you separate Ukraine from Russia, you could prevent Russia from becoming a great power, and then the United States could take over the Eurasian landmass and continue to rule. What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's on the right track. Yes, in his book, the Grand Chessboard, Zebig said that if you separate Ukraine from Russia, because Ukraine is the breadbasket, means provide most of the food for Russia, that you could greatly weaken the bear. But the relations between Russia and Ukraine go back 1,000 years. The very first capital of Russia was Kiev, and now
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to rename it and call it Kiev because if you look up the history of Kiev, you realize it was since it was the original capital of Russia. Obviously, Russia has a long history with Ukraine, and when it's become such a despicable entity gone neo-Nazi, I mean, you make the good point that Victoria Nuland spent 5 billion of American taxpayer dollars to overthrow the democratically elected president of Ukraine, who was very pro-Russian, and install a Western puppet who was anti-Russian. And from that point on in 2014, the Ukrainians began shelling the Donbass and Luhansk area, and they've killed around 14,000 Russian-speaking Ukrainians out of this antagonism that's been generated by the puppet government there, where Vladimir Putin, in a speech he presented on the 24th of February, which is published on my blog at jamesfetzer.org, Vladimir Putin laid it all out why he had to go into Ukraine and how the West had encroached again and again and again on the Eastern Bloc countries that became sovereign with the dissolution of the Soviet Union back in 1991, where the West made solemn promises not to encroach not even 1 inch to the east. And yet, just to illustrate how massively that's been violated, there were 16 NATO nations at the time, and now there are 30. And they came from, militarizing and NATOizing these nations that they promised Gorbachev they would never do. So Russia has good reason to distrust the West. And I believe everything he has done has been appropriate and justified, and that he's acting in a noble fashion to protect the interest of the Russian people. But the West has just been horrific. We've done everything wrong. We're lying, cheating, stealing. In fact, in his speech of the 24th of February, laying out the rationale why he had to enter Ukraine, he referred to the West as an empire of lies. And that's
Yeah.
correct, Rashid. The West is an empire of lies. The West is the greatest liars ever on the history stage. It's outrageous. That's what we've become.